And welcome to day 4 of the Smite Super Regionals here. We got Finch on the desk, and I'm joined here with Taco and Aggro as well. I got all the analysis I could ever want.
That's what we're here for, man. We're here to support you on your desk.
Yeah, this is my desk. It was Aggro's yesterday.
Slow down.
So it's mine
Slow
today.
down.
You still don't get one, Taco. I'm sorry.
We're not going to go over this again.
So that means that we get to go over every card and talk about all the gods that show up on it because it's my desk this time, Aggro. It's mine.
Oh, God. I don't want to be here anymore.
We want to meme it fully here up on the desk. And if you want to make sure that you're getting quality hearing on that, then you want to use those Sennheiser headsets. So thank you so much, Sennheiser, for helping us out. In fact, we actually got a couple of great promos here for you. Just use that code hi-rez, get 10% off, and even get a free GSA 50 headset. Hang.
Always worth it whenever you can have solid hearing anytime that you're going through it. And I know that it's really important for the players here as well.
That is something that's very important. It's actually been very, very important this week. So, yeah, I agree with you 100%. But we got a lot more going on here with you. We even got that digital loot bundle here for you. That's going to be coming up right here, that SWC digital loot bundle. A lot of good stuff in there, Aggro.
You know, Finch, I actually heard that we're going to be dropping some of these in the Twitch chat today and tomorrow. So make sure that you're here all day long. I hope you have absolutely no plans because you should spend all day with us so that you can make sure you can try and get your own digital loot pack just via the Twitch drop.
That's right. We're going to be giving those out, so try and stick around. As Aggro was saying, nothing else important's going on. Anyway, it's a Saturday. Make sure that you're watching plenty of Smite, but either way, you know, we got a lot going on here for you. We also want to talk to you a little bit, since HRX tickets are sold out here. We're pretty excited about that. If you still want to watch it, we do have the Coke Theater going on, so that means you can actually group up and just watch it there. That way you can still be a part of the action.
And it's always a lot of fun whenever you can just go out in your hometown with a couple of friends and make sure to snag some seats because Worlds this year is going to be pretty crazy. That's
right. It's going to be awesome. And unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get everybody there. It's already a packed house. But this way, you can still be a part of it. Maybe even protect your popcorn from your sneaky friends like Radtosk.
That's right. And, you know, I'm usually the friend that's trying to steal away the popcorn. So it's actually pretty much a rookie move by Ratatosker to just try and go off the opposite shoulder. You usually have to cause a bigger distraction than just having your other friend call them over. It's a team effort to steal popcorn. And
that's right.
Hopefully Rat can learn a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully he'll stop being so weak when it comes to his popcorn theft game and step it up a little bit. But we actually had a lot of great action already this week. As I stated, we're on day 4 right now. So take a look here and you can see the teams that already made it to HRX, like Obey Alliance. Rival made it as well over Dignitas. Might have been a bit of a surprise, and E-United LG are already there. Taco, I mean, Rival looked real good in that set.
Rival looked fantastic in that set, but also Dignitas weren't really looking like themselves from what we've seen throughout the past split at least. And now with day 2 of the wildcards coming out and only so many teams can make it. I mean, 2 out of all the 6 teams that were competing, and right now it's looking best if you're Energy or an Elevate fan, but of course Trifecta is still trying to sneak in there.
Yeah, Trifecta kind of NA's last hope out of the wildcard group. Space Station's still technically in it, could still force a 3-way tie with some help, but looking unlikely with the way they've played so far. Noble's eliminated, Dignitas is eliminated, but Trifecta, Energy, and Elevate competing for those top 2.
Yeah, we got some big matchups coming for you here today, like Trifecta going up against Energy. We also got Elevate versus Trifecta. I think that's actually how we close out the day. So really some big games that will be coming up. But we got a game here first. Dignitas versus Noble here is going to be the one we're talking about. Yeah, right now Dignitas might be out of it, but they're still trying to, come in and show that, we're not going to go completely defeated here at this land.
I mean, keep in mind, Dignitas has lost their last 2 regular season games, and they've come here to Super Regionals and haven't won one yet. Yeah. So you don't want to go out in Season 4 without a victory at all at this LAN. Realistically, this is the matchup where they should be able to pull it out. I mean, Noble was considered the weakest team coming into the Super Regionals and has looked pretty good, honestly, in their first few games here in the group stage. But if Dignitas is going to beat anybody, it's got to be here against Noble.
For these 2 teams, it's an entirely a matter of pride right now. It's not necessarily because they know that they're both out of contention for the world slot, but you don't want to be the team that loses every single game when you come out to the LAN event. Everybody, as a player and as a competitive player at that, all of these guys here want to try and get at least one victory for themselves.
And this is a fresh day here that we're talking about too. So yes, it was a little bit rough for them going through those first days, but like you said, no one wants to be the team that doesn't get any wins. Have you heard anything, Taco, about the mindset of these 2 teams as they're heading into this match?
It's probably a little bit more rough for Dignitas because so many people just had such high expectations for this team. I mean, the squad themselves also just had those superbly high standards, and that's just kind of what you imagine. They were considered a world-class team, looked at as to being one of the #1 contenders in the or in the European side of things, and now that they've pretty much fallen so hard, it's got a lot of similarities, some flashbacks, I think, for Qvofred happening right now because of what happened with Super Regionals in Orbit last year, and so that's pretty rough to try and overcome. I think for the most part, Dignitas' biggest enemy right now is just their own mental state.
Without a doubt. I mean, in talking to the Noble guys before the LAN, and they knew that they really didn't have a lot to lose. You know, they understood the position that they were in. Dignitas is in the exact opposite position. You know, you got to feel like they felt some pressure once they lost that set against Rival 3-0. Then they dropped their first game down here in the regionals, in the group stage. You can tell that pressure really got to them. On the other side, Noble, you know, they're 0-3, but that's probably what most people expected from them. So they probably aren't feeling too bad about where they are. In fact, with their performances against teams like Energy, where that was a pretty close game with a couple Fire Giant calls going well for Noble, you know, they might actually be feeling pretty good coming into this match. And especially when you look across the way and how Dignitas has played so far during the Super Regionals, how can you not feel like you got a decent chance?
Yeah, Noble got to be feeling like, you know, they actually have a chance up against Dignitas. And as you said, I mean, in their showings that they played so far, they played up against Energy. And I mean when played up when I say that. They looked good going up against the two-time world champions. They don't look like pushovers here right now. And in particular, I mean, they've got a lot of talent on the squad with Skeeledon, with Moswal. They've got some really strong players.
It's just been flashes of life that we've really seen out of Noble so far. Even in the group stages, despite all the losses they took yesterday, they're still coming in this morning. They're still feeling really prepared and ready. They feel like they want to prove something to everybody back at home who's watching them play today and show we aren't the worst team like everybody said that we would be coming into this.
And that's the advantage of being one of those, you know, the wildcard teams that comes in through the gauntlet. And like I said, Skeeledon, I talked to him before this event started, and that's the exact phrase that he used was, we've got nothing to lose and everything to gain here at Super Regionals. And, you know, they didn't get to where they wanted to be. They won't be going to HRX, but to find a victory against a top-tier team like Dignitas to close out your Season 4 would be a pretty solid note to end on.
And a big part of some of those flashes that you've been talking about, Taco, is this guy we're seeing right here on our screen right now. That's Moswal, mid laner there, coming out for Noble. And that's what I've been talking about. They've been so close. It's felt like they've been even or even maybe a little bit ahead, and maybe one play or one call kind of rips it away from them. What would you say to them? What do they need to clean up? What do you think is most important if they want to try and cross that last threshold?
Wowy, Moswal, and Whalrus have all looked really they've looked standout in comparison to Noble this weekend. I think they've also been really important catalysts for getting their team online. Just want to see a little bit more coordination out of Wubbn and Skeeledon when combining with the rest of the team.
I want to see some more mental toughness throughout the game from Noble. You could still tell that there are times where they lose a little bit of focus. They aren't, you know, considering all the possibilities, and Skeeledon will get picked off, and Wubbn will get picked off, and then all of a sudden, what was a pretty even game starts to shift in the other direction. You have to be on 100% mentally all the time in these games, and Noble still has those moments where they seem to slip.
And if you want to talk about Noble, then we got to talk about who they're going up against. It's Dignitas. We talked a little bit about how they haven't been looking especially great so far this LAN, but I got to think that those guys, I mean, those are 5 really, really strong players, superstars in EU. They know that they got to come in here and at least get a win. They got a lot of pride that's going on for them. Those Dignitas guys, who are you looking at to be big in this set?
For me, it's got to start on the right side of the map. I mean, Qvofred and Variety have not looked like themselves so far this Super Regionals, and they were so key to Dignitas' success throughout the Season 4. Arkkyl has also had some struggles overall. He also has had some really good moments, but I mean, you can go down the list and say everybody on this roster hasn't looked like themselves, or else they would have been probably going to HRX already if they had played up to their potential. It really stinks to watch how far this team has fallen so quickly.
I don't think anybody here is questioning the talent that these players contain. Even after all of their losses, everyone is still regarding this team as top-tier individuals and probably still a top-tier team. It's just sometimes you have the off weekend, and you can't really afford to do that when it comes to these sort of competitive environments, knowing that this is your last chance, really, if you want to try and make it into Worlds. And unfortunately for Dignitas, even though they weren't able to fully grasp that, they still have a chance now here today to show that they're not completely dead yet.
That's right. Come back out, take these last 2 games as a team to show that they are still as strong as we all know them to be. That's all I've been hearing. That's all I've been seeing like on Twitter and social media as we got Trixtank here on the screen with us, is that these guys are better than just what we've seen from here so far this weekend.
And keep in mind, this team with Trixtank and Qvo last year and under the Orbit tag that had the same sort of thing happen to them, not quite as strong as this year's Dignitas roster was, but a similar sort of flop at Super Regionals. They were able to bounce back the second day of group stages and beat a very, very good Flashpoint team that was going to be going to Worlds. They're the ones who kind of gifted Luminosity their World spot last year. So it's very clear that these guys have that potential in them. They can kind of rally after a bad few days. But, you know, this time, I don't know if they'll have a team full of friends that they're trying to get into Worlds to try and motivate them.
It hurts a little bit more whenever you're having it happen a second time around, especially when I think most everybody was expecting them to have a fairly easy time qualifying into Worlds. Not necessarily through Rival, but at least through the group stages.
That's right. We thought if they did end up dropping down here, then they'd probably be one of the 2, perhaps alongside Energy. But there's a lot of strong players here on this Dignitas roster. In particular, the man we're seeing here on the screen right now, Zyrhoes, their mid laner. He's had a big impact with them. We even had a chance to sit down and talk with Zyrhoes earlier on, so let's take a look.
Yeah, I've always had my way of doing pick and bans. Like, I feel like I'm usually the guy that has like the most say in the picks and bans in like every team I've been in. And like same when I was coaching Energy, like obviously they didn't agree with everything because they're a completely new team and I never played with them before. So, but like even then, like I had a big say in like the pick and bans. So, what I pick is usually like it depends on our team comp and stuff. But like usually I like to run a god that I know I will do really well on late game. Fred and Harry, variety. They're both really aggressive. Arkkyl's really aggressive. I feel like everyone on my team is really aggressive apart from me, pretty much. I feel like I'm the most defensive player on the team. Usually new metas, we're not that good in the start. I don't know, we're pretty slow to adapt. But like, we had a boot camp now and I think we learned a lot from it. So I won last year, but obviously it was as coach.
Right.
But like, yeah, it would be nice to win as a player, but I don't know, I don't feel much about it. As long as we don't slip out of the meta or something and like get behind enemy teams. Like the first LAN this year, I felt like back then we were not, like we did pretty well anyway, but like we were behind the meta then in a few things. I feel like we've been feeling the same like when it comes to competition this whole year. Like even after the LAN we lost, like we knew like what was wrong or like what we need to do. So never in pro play and stuff, but like in practice we actually do struggle a bit, like that people probably don't know about. Like sometimes we have like really bad practice, and when we have bad practice it gets even worse. Obviously we have arguments and stuff sometimes, but like at the end of the day I think everyone knows in the back of their head that like we are the best and like we can be the best. So.
And Zyrhoes really is a big part of what this Dignitas team does so well. I remember you were talking about how important it was when they dropped down to group stages and they went up against Energy, and you could hear Energy being real vocal with them. That's sometimes something that can kind of affect some of these team members, and Zyrhoes is so important to him. He's got to make sure that he goes into this set with his head right. All the Dignitas boys really do.
It feels as though that's what made such a rough time before Dignitas this weekend, though, is after their initial match with Energy, when they really started controlling the game, you could just tell that the vocal statements were really starting to mess with Dignitas. And even though I don't think it was all purely intentional or malicious from Energy, that's just competition. That's just what you do. And Energy knows what it takes. You want to get into your opponent's head, because if you mess with them and you get them on that slight tilt factor, it's going to hand you the game. And when Worlds is on the line, I can't blame them.
Look, one of the most fun things about playing at LAN is yelling at your opponent whenever you start to make a play. And what the only thing that can come close to feeling as good as being other team on LAN is then watching how badly you beat them and how badly you trash talked them continue to affect them later on that day. That was what I wanted every LAN game I played, was to try and tilt someone so bad that they thought about it the rest of the day and it affected their gameplay. It's part of the LAN environment. It's part of the game. And with veteran players like that, you just can't let it get to you.
Well, now we got Dignitas going up against Noble. I believe we even got those picks and bans ready for you so that we can go ahead and get into the game. We've seen a lot of very interesting picks and ban phases this year. I think they've been very, very important here at this LAN. What are you expecting them to prioritize here?
Expecting probably some Osiris bans. We saw one match, I believe, yesterday where Whalrus was actually able to acquire it. And I think that in general, both Noble and Dignitas don't really want to have to worry about that jungle solo lane factor if an Osiris or a Cabrakan is involved.
I like this Morrigan ban right off the bat, though. Zyrhoes, I don't believe, has played it at all so far this Super Regionals, in large part because teams have been really respecting how well he can play it. One of the premier Morrigan players in the league, without a doubt. There has been a lot of talk about Zyrhoes' mid lane god pool and what he's going to go for, whether it's this Thoth, the soul that he pilots all the time. Played a little bit of Raijin yesterday as well. That didn't seem to work out for Dignitas, so no surprise to see that Noble's immediately looking towards Zyrhoes' god pool.
I want to take a moment here. Look at some of these player cams. The Dignitas boys, we're seeing some smiles on their faces here, Aggro, as the Cabrakan band comes out from Noble. So hopefully they are feeling a little bit better here towards that middle state. That's what I'm hoping, is that they're, that they're regrouped and ready to come out and play as well as we know that they can.
I mean, they've got nothing else to lose. They're already out. So you may as well have some fun while you're up there. You never know what's going to happen going into Season 5 for the rest of the year, things like that. So you want to try and have some fun while it's still available.
No surprise here to see a Muzen Cobb get first picked by Noble. We've seen the B kind of have a bit of a resurgence here towards this last fall split. Even here at this LAN, been a really big priority pick, sometimes in mid, sometimes over in that AD carry position. What is this a Muzen Cobb that does so well?
Probably way more concerned about the Cabrakan and Fafnir that just happened, but for the AMC, it's mostly about Noble wanting to prioritize that pick because they recognize just how strong it can actually be when it comes to a draft. They have the flexibility option as well for taking it into the mid lane if chosen, but I just love Dig's response so much to immediately opt for that Cabrakan-Fafnir combination.
A little bit worried about the Cabrakan because Qvofred played it yesterday and went 0-7 to start off the game, something like that. Was not a good performance, but this could be flexed into the solo lane very easily for variety. Getting the early Fafnir, very important for Dignitas without a doubt, because Trixtank is one of his more comfortable gods, and Fafnir has been absolutely dominant so far here at Super Regionals.
Noble take Hercules and Serqet. Hercules we saw him do really well early on in the LAN and then kind of vanished since then. Maybe a couple bans his way, but haven't seen a lot of it. And then Serqet, likely for Skeeledon, really we know he can play the Serqet very well.
After we saw Benji on the Hercules, and then there was a couple other matches as well, but it was mostly just one of those circumstances where players were just recognizing how effective that Earthbreaker into the team combination actually could be, because Herc's push and pull, I mean, it just has so much setup utility.
I also love these two picks in tandem for Noble, because Hercules, one of his worst matchups is the Serqet, and Qvofred has a world-class Serqet, without a doubt. So picking these two together takes that option away from Dignitas. It's a good pick for Noble anyways, because Hercules has a great matchup into Cabrakan in the solo lane, multiple ways to interrupt those tremors, even at level 1.
Dignitas lock in the Ullr there to round out that first round of the picks. And Ullr something that we started to see a little bit more of here at this LAN as well. Maybe a little bit of surprise like from some of our viewers at home about this Ullr pick, but what is it that Ullr does so well?
No massive surprise to me really whenever I see the Ullr pick come out. A lot of players have just been looking for that all-in potential in the early game stages, and whenever you're trying to go for buff invades or just really strong lane clear, Ullr's one of the first guys that's going to come to mind, especially since he's probably going to be having to face off against that Muzen Cobb. But additionally, Dignitas also have a little bit of signs of, or reminiscence of the Elevate drafts actually right now. I mean, they've got two pretty tanky frontliners and then one singular ADC, which means that there's still the possibility, if chosen, to go another ADC, simply because if it is Qvo running the Cabrakan jungle, you already have your magical department taken care of.
And Xing Chen is open. Xing Chen has been really critical for Elevate's Triple Guardian draft, so Dignitas could go for it here pretty easily if they wanted to.
We do see Dignitas taking an eye, like you said, towards some more tankier picks as they lock in the Freya. Freya, something I don't believe we've seen just yet, or certainly not very much of that. So getting some strong magical damage to go along with that Ullr here.
That's almost certainly going to be in the mid lane here for Zyrhoes. I mean, he's been talking about playing Freya mid forever. Yaman was the first one to actually make it work, and I believe that was at the Energy Invitational, playing Freya in the mid lane. in a game where, you know, there's not a whole lot on the line, Zyrhoes gets to pull out one of his favorite gods.
And that's reasonable in my opinion because Freya also can help compensate for the rest of the team, considering that you don't necessarily want to be relying on Cabrakan as your sole source of magical damage. Having that burst potential that can actually be utilized by the Freya is also very important.
Now this signals to me that Qvofred wants to play an assassin in the jungle because you don't want to stack 4 magical characters on your team. It used to be not so bad because magical defense items weren't in a great spot, but now with things like Oni's and Genji's Guard, there's so many efficient magical protection items that stacking 4 magical can be really detrimental.
It is getting easier just to build up against them. Noble now taking that Xing Chen pick that Aggro was mentioning a little bit earlier might have worked on Dig's comp. Well, Noble wanted a little bit of that too, so they take the Xing Chen for them over to their side.
And I'm absolutely loving this Xing 10 selection because for Noble, it's kind of the same rule applies where they could also choose to maybe try something a little bit different in that mid lane role. We know that Moswal has a wide assortment of mages that he can actually play due to just his own individual mechanics. It's not necessarily going to be something crazy, and that's the thing. It's just going to be the Raijin.
That's right. We've seen a lot of Raijin here this week, Aggro. I know personally Raijin's someone that you've liked here for a long time.
Yeah, Raijin really good at clearing the wave early on and bringing that pressure, can be aggressive in the early game. Dash in, use the mez, use his ultimate to bring some CC, can get away from those Cabrakan walls, can get away from Freya when she starts to burst him. There's a pretty strong pick, but Moswal needs to be careful that he doesn't get caught out in a bad position with those Taiko drums, because if Zyrhoes can come from the side or come behind him, that Pulse Irradiate combination is going to 3 or 4 shot him before he can even get out of that ultimate.
And there's that last pick coming out for Dignitas. It's the Odin, and that's going to be that big cage that he has, trying to lock down some of these gods that Noble have already selected here.
I'm primarily looking for the Hercules Odin kind of camp out is what I would imagine to be the case, just because Odin can fare pretty well against a Hercules, but also vice versa. Hercules does have a couple of effective routes to try and avoid some of that bird bomb damage, as well as just trap him out from dealing any damage.
Well, before we get over there to the casters, let's go ahead and see who we got for your picks. Aggro, Dig or Noble?
This Odin pick switched it for me. I was really feeling Noble's composition, but this is a great Odin selection. I've got Dig.
Taco?
I'm going to have to go for Noble because of Moswal.
Okay, well, there we go. Dig for Aggro, Noble for Taco. Casters, who do y'all got?
Thank you very much, John Finch. Tom Battinger joined here by Ron Jobert.
Hey.
How you doing, man?
It's me. I love to cast after losing the caster.
Yeah,
it's like my favorite activity.
Well, fantastic. You're a loser there, and you'll probably be a loser
And everywhere.
here. But Dignitas versus Noble. These two teams, well, they haven't been successful either. But somebody's got to win right now.
Right.
And these drafts have been pretty interesting. I'm really excited to see the Freya on the one side. As far as Noble's concerned, though, this squad still has a lot to prove. They came out today, and speaking to them before we went live, they said, look, we don't really have a chance, but we still want to prove to the folks at home that we've got it.
A few people at home expected Noble to get through that gauntlet, eventually maybe even being vigilant, and that was a very close game. It was 2-0 for Noble. So coming in, they're not that bad of a team, and they definitely have showed that they have the opportunity to beat anybody.
Yeah, I mean, this squad is definitely a team that looks like they've got a lot of raw talent as far as compared to how they have been in the past. When you look at Whalrus in that solo lane, you look at Skeeledon actually picking it up. Previously an inconsistent player, recently has been very consistent.
Yeah, he's been very consistent, and I look to him to hard carry these games. And the fact is, whenever he chooses the fights for his team and whenever they follow up, they can make some waves.
Yeah, it's Skeeledon in the jungle combined with the mid lane Moswal that's really going to do a lot of the heavy lifting. Let's get right into the game here. Game number 1 of our second day of group stages. Noble taking on Team Dignitas. And as we said, Zyrhoes playing that Freya in the middle lane. Very interesting choice.
I do love the Freya in the middle lane, and they pretty much ran the Elevate comp, the 3 tanks and 2 hunters. Granted, Freya's not a literal hunter, but she's doing the same job.
Yeah, it's the same idea as when you put a soul there in the middle lane. She's able to really bring out the basic attacks. Biggest difference, however, lack of structure damage coming out from that mid lane mage. So it's really just going to be Arkkyl.
I would expect that most people at home say Freya is one of the best late game gods in the game.
Yeah.
But then I say Freya is the best mid game god in Smite. She has such a strong presence in these fights around 30 minutes, and these late game pushes without her tower damage kind of hurt her really bad.
Yeah, that can be problematic. Right now, Zero is taking a bunch of early game damage. but going to be able to dish it back. The Soulstone really helps her early game that we've seen. But interesting build path here. What do you think he's going to go for?
I think that's a Warlock stash. I would expect, because of how this land meta has been going, a lot of people have just been starting Warlocks, even tier 2, just to begin the game.
Very different mentality, though, when you're playing Freya. Warlock Sash, of course, brings you the chunk of health, and that's kind of why you go the Warlock Sash. But it's in addition to the magical power, etc. Whereas Freya scales better with the attack speed, no?
Yeah, she scales better with the attack speed just because her autos are so damaging. And you can see that the way that they left her is that they want to get her to that mid-game, late game, and just kind of, I guess, let her farm for free. And they're doing the same with Wowy on the AMC.
Right now, Trixtank going to wrap around on the backside, but there's 3 members of Noble there, so he's got to be a little bit careful. Pancake flip avoided by way of jump, and early on, Trixtank just being a nuisance.
I like the way Skeeledon is playing. We saw him earlier in the Chaos back camps. He's actually super aggressive, and you need that, especially because Serqet's level 1. You're not going to really be able to do anything. You kind of just have to reach 2, 3, and start fighting right then.
Noble has been, I mean, we saw the double invade coming out from both teams, you know, looking for on either side of the map when everything first started. But yeah, I agree. Skeeledon on the Serqet, gotta grab everything that he has a chance to, because Qvofred on the Cabrakan definitely gonna have a little bit more control early on.
I'm seeing the Cabrakan, and I'm in general just really excited that these two teams came to win and came to play hard. Like, they obviously both of these teams are out of Worlds, but there's no reason that they don't want to win, and especially Dig or Noble. Like, Noble's the underdog. Dig was coming in as the 2nd seed in Europe, so they want to prove that they can actually win literally a game on land.
Yeah, I mean, Noble's out here trying to show the growth that they've had throughout the year, right? These teams in very different positions. Noble being on the bottom of everything and just kind of barely squeaking through. All bad as Skeeledon shows up. The boulder coming out from Hercules. But Variety's going to drop the ring and walk through. Qvofred, not as luxurious. Whalrus with the first blood. Big damage coming out from Herc, and the assist from the jungler.
That's exactly what you want, considering that Skeeledon gets the assist there, gets his ult off, hits level 5 like right before he gets into solo lane, and then Whalrus cleans it up so he has even more pressure over Variety. And if you have pressure over an Odin, especially around 5-6, you're just winning the lane until 15.
Yeah, I mean, Odin's supposed to have really that, I just destroy the wave in one jump, go ahead. Hercules going to be able to beat him up now.
And Odin doesn't always have to, if he plays well and he gets that lead a little bit, he doesn't always have to even use the jump. He can just stand there in his bird bomb and just do that Odin pose where he holds his sword and he just goes, I'm about to blow up. Here I go.
I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna do it, guys. I swear. But whenever you're behind like that, you have to use your jump because you lack the damage, and you aren't able to use your bird bomb all the time because you need it for the shield and the protection.
It's the threat of activation.
Right.
That's the problem. That's the issue with Odin, is because, you know, he gets to stand there. Arkkyl can stand there, jump away. Avoid with a nice 180.
That was a really good stun.
Stunned out. Odin gets the luxury of standing there with the stick when he's ahead because nobody wants to mess with him.
Right.
But now Whalrus with a slight lead, nice little blink there from Variety, is just going to be able to walk up and say, you know what, I'm just going to driving strike you out of the wave. What are you doing, bud?
You would expect that they pick Odin, and regardless of who's picking Odin, that they have the old bot late game, and invading that speed it's so aggressive, but it's so good because they have that lead.
A little bit of damage coming out from Zyrhoes. Skeeledon able to zigzag. Can't avoid the wall, however. Finds an exit up north. Here comes the damage coming out from mid lane and support. And Qvofred going to get ulted. And Qvofred going to get dead. Skeeledon with the 2nd kill of the game.
Yeah, and that was actually really smart by Trixtank jumping away because
nice
he would
timing.
Look at that. They're so aggressive and they're able to do whatever they want at 5 minutes.
Skeeledon played that fantastically.
Yeah, he played that fantastically, and you can actually see he played it well even though it didn't happen the way he expected it to, because you have Trixtank jump away knowing that if he gets hit by that poison because Qvofred is already so low and he doesn't have the shell, he will die to that tick. Like, well, he probably won't die to it, but he'll take a lot of damage for free for, you know, no reason. And they're sitting there and they go, okay, well, I guess I'm the support and I just jumped away, so I can't even continue this fight.
Skeeledon playing, like you said, unexpectedly. He had to exit, but then as soon as Moswal and Whalrus commit, he comes right on back into the fray. And then I loved the timing that he had jumping into the nonsense as soon as Zyrhoes falls down from that Valkyrie's discretion, just able to hit him with the 1-2 and then send him to bed.
Ever since Skeeledon has been on Envy and he played, with Cyclone and Stealth even.
And Dust.
And Dust, yeah, whenever he played with Superstar Dust, he has been the jungler that it sounds like a little bit of a meme playing with, this is a lot of that kind of surprised me in the middle of my sentence. He played with Cyclone and he got that weaken factor about him where he's okay with sacrificing farm as long as you can win the fight, and then afterwards just go farm anyway.
Well, right now, Noble, one of the big things that I think is really key for them, and I point to Slaney specifically for this, is how aggressive they've been playing. I think it's really positive for this team to keep the foot on the gas.
Noble, sometimes they were 6th seed in NA, and they didn't close out a lot of their leads, and they weren't able to do that a few times.
Just say it, they were bad.
They were bad, but a lot of the time they were up. Look at Moswal, he does so much damage. It's like he literally could do whatever he wants, and Qvofred is 0-3, and Moswal is one of the best mage ulters in the game. So whenever you 1+1, you get whatever number you want.
Yeah, pretty much. Fantastic math right there from our resident analyst. My point was, and I love how wonderfully we illustrated that, was like, yes, just call them bad because now they are so far away from that you have the luxury of being able to look back and say, yeah, you guys definitely weren't killing it. But when you're playing like this, I mean, 4-0 above Team Dignitas, who have not had a fantastic weekend. But, to be honest with you, I had them as the best team in the world up until this weekend started.
Did you really?
Yes, I thought they were. I thought they were better than Obey despite the standings. I thought they were better than any North American offering. Individually, team-wise, they looked fantastic, and now they look like this.
And now they look like this, and they're still doing whatever they want to Qvofred. He's 0-4 right now. His positioning is not even bad. He's literally in his own jungle at his own backcams, and Skeeledon and Whalrus are there doing whatever they want.
Skeeledon, they're saying, I'm in your base killing your dudes. What are you going to do about it? And Team Dignitas is just sitting there like, what can we do about it? And that's the question I'll actually pose to you, Black and White. Here, after this little invade, Whalrus not done. Here comes Wubbn as well. 3 players surrounding Variety. And the Odin player does have the blink, and they're just going to leave him alone for some reason.
Yeah, they knew he used that jump, and he did the classic, I'm about to Odin jump over the wall by running into the camp.
Yeah.
Wubbn just stopping the back and just walking away.
Zero's able to lift Wubbn here and deal him some damage. Nice blink, but a beautiful ultimate from Wubbn. Hot read, and he avoids the stun. Still, the damage coming out from Zero is not going to be enough to kill Wubbn just yet. Qvofred forced to turn around when Wowy shows his face.
The ADC peels for the support. You don't often see that, considering that AMC also has really good peel for other players. Like his self-peel is okay because he has the damage, but the slow and the bees and stuff like that, you're not going to fight them, especially because he's been solo farming and he's level 11.
No Anhur, no Ullr, but I guess the honey counts.
It counts. It's a slow. It's a pretty good CC. It's like standard good.
That's you're stretching, but I'll give it to you.
Yeah, you got to be nice to both of the teams. That's what they say.
No, nobody says that.
No, they say you have to be nice.
Nobody says
you have to be nice to everybody all the time. And make sure their feelings aren't hurt.
Literally nobody says that.
That's what I don't. I'll prove it. I'll prove it later.
I hope you will.
You have no proof.
Right now, the only one proving anything on this cast is Noble Esports.
Right.
Up 5-0 here to Team Dignitas. And, like we said, before they went live, I spoke to some of the guys on Noble, and they said, look, we're out of it, but we want to show people that we can play.
And I do want to say that earlier I mentioned that Dignitas was pulling the triple tank 200 comp with the Elevate style, because Elevate was running the Hou-Yi, AMC, Ullr, whoever, and Cherio in that first game against Obey that they eventually won literally ended the game 1-8. And Qvofred right now is 0-4.
Sure. Yeah.
We've seen it happen.
With that said, I think the Cabrakan's a little bit different than the audio.
Right.
Double lift coming out from Zyrhoes right there. But the key point here is Team Dignitas' draft it's sort of the off-brand version of what Elevate's been doing. Elevate has 3 specific Guardians. Here we have a tank by way of Odin, and of course Zero's not the traditional hunter, so you're not going to get the same objective siege. You're not going to get the same tower siege either. You're going to trade out some of that tower damage for a little bit more potency as far as the direct damage is concerned in that mid to late game coming out from Zeroes. But holistically, I think Team Dignitas have On the surface, it might seem similar, but I think it's very different.
It is very different, and I am pretty much pulling the roles-only comparison, 3 tanks, 2 hunters. But having Dignitas have Qvofred be so far behind, that's their Guardian that would do a ton of damage.
This is where Dignitas can actually fight back on their speed buff, but look at what Noble does. Noble go for the speed buff, but really want to fight in the middle lane. Trixtank now, it's 2-on-2 on the right-hand side in the middle. There's the rest of the teammates. Moswal making the move over the wall. Here comes Skeeledon looking for Trixtank. Qvofred over the top, gets Whalrus. He was in trouble, but it's Trixtank that's going back to the principal's office. Principal Wubbn and Director Moswal making it happen. 7-1 so far, and Arkkyl could be next, but Zyrhoes cheating his way out, takes care of Mozzie.
That's really good of Zyrhoes to get that kill, considering that he died earlier, and you want him to just kind of keep up with the farm. And him 1v3ing right now might be...
Get out of there.
That's a little bit of stress, a little bit of anger coming out of Zyrhoes, maybe. He probably was never going to win that ever, but, I mean, I guess he did the damage so they can't do an objective.
Yeah, he's just got to get out of there. That first item was the hastened ring. As I said, the difference between the traditional mages and Zyrhoes on the Freya definitely going to show its face here. So the hastened ring, it's like Fatalis light. You get little bursts of Fatalis here and there, not the old school traditional all the time, which is probably welcomed by a number of players. And then into the magic boots. Yeah,
and into the magic boots, you're getting the haste on cooldown. It's kind of a thing, and Freya really misses Fatalis. She was obviously a lot. If she were in the meta right now with Fatalis, granted, everybody with Fatalis would be entirely different, but Freya with Fatalis, she'd be probably played a lot more. I'm pretty sure this is the only time we've seen Freya this weekend.
Yeah, which is kind of upsetting. I think Freya definitely has an application in today's meta, albeit right now not exactly shining. Does get 1 kill out of the 2 that Team Dignitas own at the moment. Wubbn stunned out by Trixtank. Skeeledon going aggressive one more time. And Zyrhoes with a nice banish to help his teammates.
See, Qvofred, granted he's 3 levels down, but Variety's come back. Whalrus has 2 kills and 4 assists, and Variety has 2 assists, and he's the same level. He's been doing a great job getting that farm and staying safe.
Oh, look at the collapse here. Moswal baiting Team Dignitas into this little corridor, and Wubbn and his junglers show up, trying to make it happen.
Oh, they can kill Zyrhoes here. Oh, yeah. Zyrhoes, that positioning,
in the sky.
He was right next to them watching the fight and didn't do the damage until he was being aggressed on, and that is way too late to do that.
With Zyrhoes down, Noble Esports thinks they have the window of opportunity to look for the Gold Fury. Arkkyl taking the long way around, switches out to the 3-1, can't find it. Noble with the first objective of the game. Trixtank likely to fall next. 2 players jump on top. 1 shot will do it. And it's Wubbn with his 2nd kill of the contest, bringing Noble up to 11. Gold Fury in their pocket, and they're heading to the middle lane.
Wubbn has been really good with those roars, honestly. He's been hitting almost every single one whenever he plays Xing, even on the other games. And he secures that kill there. It looks like they could probably go to Portal Demon here and stretch their lead even more. When Qvofred was 0-4, they were only down about 2k gold, and that's not the end of the world. But having them do gold, walk over to the other jungle, steal all your buffs, and then do Portal Demon on the way like a drive-by is awful.
Yeah, it's definitely not the look that Team Dignitas want right now. Blink over the wall coming out from Variety to try and steal the objective. Well, instead, he'll just get the hive.
I guess he did his job, considering that he stopped them from doing Portal. They get a little bit more gold with that tier 1, and Whalrus has to not rotate over to the fight again. I mean, whenever it comes to that, you have Whalrus rotating over, and Variety has his shield, and he probably won't die here because he's Odin and he's tanky already, and he has tier 2 Sonagaya, so he'll be okay. But Moswal has no mana, and they can collapse on them here.
Yeah, this is a good fight for Team Dignitas. Mozzie gonna walk through the wall with the Phantom. Nice play there. Interesting pickup. Trixtank still trying to make it happen, but Noble with a nice retreat. The Phantom originally bought for the Odin, but absolutely will work against the Qvofred.
It's good to have a relic that works for multiple players instead of just picking a Phantom just for Odin ult. Because Odin ult, especially with that cooldown, is so much shorter than Phantom, especially tier 1. You're not getting the value out of it. And Skeeledon is caught here with no mana. He just blinks away. He has the aggressive positioning, and right now they're just doing it to defend an objective, which is not what they want. They want to be able to push.
Well, Team Dignitas, nice banish coming out from Zyrhoes, stopping Whalrus from really doing anything there.
That was really good, and Zyrhoes is reaching that mid-game point. He's doing a lot of damage, even saw it to the objective. They were able to shred that a lot easier. And having, I guess, everybody be roughly the same level as everybody on the other team, especially Arkkyl and Variety, that's who you want to have that experience. Like you have Arkkyl and he just split push over to tier 1. So now he has the lane pressure, and Wowy can't go push for free.
And what can Variety do with his not lead, but being able to stay even with the opposition? What can he do with that?
Well, Odin with his base damage, regardless of how you're doing with the XP, he should be able to shred you down with just one jump and a bird bomb. And even his slow is super impactful, considering that if Skeeledon jumps in, if he deathbanes in, and he doesn't have his blink, he can slow you, and you have to ult the wrong target. You know, Skeeledon's been using his ult to confirm kills, and he's been pushing them in the other players, especially after they're winning the fight. You know, he Serqet ults somebody and pushes them towards someone who's low. They have to jump away and escape the fight. If Skeeledon can't do that and he's just dying, then they literally have no tick damage.
And that's really the key there is trying to find that damage over time. Right now, though, Team Dignitas trying to find any sort of damage whatsoever, trailing by 5K and about 9 kills as well, 16.5 in our single game series here between Team Dignitas and Noble Esports. Wow, he's surrounded by 2. He's got teammates in the wings, but they're not going to be here in time. Aegis is going to help him for the moment. Shelled as well. And Wubbn with the spin, but Arkkyl with the kill. 2 players jump away. Arkkyl in trouble. 1 shot, 2 shot, 3 shots. As Skeeledon finishes off the drum solo started by Moswal and gets a dozen for Noble.
Great drum solo, by the way. But Moswal hitting that ultimate, but you have Qvofred, when he's 3 levels down like that, like I said, Cabrakan is their guardian that's supposed to be doing the damage. And the only reason they lost that fight in the end, I guess they didn't lose it because it was 1-for-1, but losing Wowy there, the only reason they didn't win that fight is because Qvo didn't do enough damage, and Wowy was literally just dancing his ult.
Well, Wubbn right now taking some damage. The banish misses. If Zyrhoes hits that banish, he has time to wait for his cooldowns to reset. Trixtank follows suit, and without the tier 1 tower, they probably take out Wubbn.
That'll probably... I honestly expect a Bancrofts here just because it gets him there faster. It's another item finish quicker. And Freya, obviously, with lifesteal, that's the entire point.
At the same time, I think Pythags is a great choice as well. It amplifies not just the Freya, but also the Cabrakan. You spend a lot of time talking about how Bracken needs to be bringing some damage as well. Pythags would absolutely help him.
It would definitely help him, and even Freya with cooldown just helps in general. Like, you don't want to build cooldown boots on her all the time. You want to build the pen, you want to get there, especially if you're free farming, and you're just kind of sitting there and you go, hey, I'm not dying and I'm not killing anybody, so I'll get pen boots because I can stay for 1 more wave. That kind of thing happens. And whenever you're somebody on his team, like even Arkkyl would help with the lifesteal. If he builds maybe an Aussie again, he'd have triple lifesteal and Zyrhoes ults away.
Immediately, he's got him.
Yeah, he has to. Wowy also has no beads here, and he's living a lot long. He's doing the exact same thing they just did.
Yeah.
But Qvo has slightly a little more damage with the tier 2 Voidstone.
Trixtank can get away from the cavalry. That is Noble Esports. Nice flip coming out from Whalrus. And now Trixtank immunes a whole bunch of nonsense by way of the ultimate. Hops over the corner. Finds himself safe underneath the tower. And Noble Esports, 5 players strong. Can't get the support. But now looking for the solo lane. Variety walks away. And Noble's going to head towards the Oracles.
If I'm Moswal, I definitely want to use my taunt there, especially on my ult. I want to bang those drums and make sure that Trixtank either can't transform to begin with, or he can't jump away after he transforms. And they don't necessarily let a kill go. He's only, half health, and he's sitting there, and if they do a ton of damage to him, especially, taunt him twice, maybe ult him over and over with no CC on the Raijin ult, he should be able to, I guess, die at their hand, but he jumps away with the reset cooldowns on Fafnir ult, and that's kind of a missed opportunity, especially with Wubbn's ult down.
I mean, if Moswal, if they're able to go ahead and get that kill, it translates into a Gold Fury.
Yeah, and that translates into a Gold Fury, and they're up about 4,000. They've been able to get that lead back. They were down, 6K, 5K. They're slowly building it, and if you notice, Noble's not in their jungle the entire game anymore.
Yeah.
So that helps.
And I mean, that has to do with the pick selections. A couple of players coming online, as we like to say. But quarter HP on the Gold Fury right now in control by Noble Esports. Trixtank and a couple of Team Dignitas players showing their faces. Leashed out. No. Take it back one more time. Here comes the Cabrakan. Not going to be enough. Moswal takes care of said Cabrakan. And Qvofred sits down for the 6th time.
Qvofred kind of went in and expected to steal out with his ult, I would imagine. Maybe they said back up, and he's already too far that he knows he's either going to die without using his ult and not getting anything off and trying to steal, or the team follows up if he gets a steal or a kill. And Qvofred being so far ahead, he's 1-6 right now. He's full Cheerio. He's engaged. and he's not on the RDO, so I guess it's not as good as you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, Cabrakan, Guardians, I mean, all characters do, but Guardians exist sort of on this plane from offensive to defensive, right? And
right.
Cabrakan more on the offensive side. You want him to be making these moves. Skeeledon making the defensive moves, half HP after an onslaught of Team Dignitas players, but Wubbn's tossing two right in the crosshairs. Wubbn will claim one off of his own assist. Trixtank next off of a dash coming out from the Whalrus man. And after the transition, Moswal still takes care of him. 2 kills for none. And Noble Esports 15-4.
Wubbn is carrying. And I say that genuinely.
Yeah.
And we would not ever say that. And that's not a mark at him. But I'm looking at Wubbn, and I just see him pop a shell that saved Skeeledon's life because he almost died to the dot from Fafnir ult. That's insane. Wubbn is doing so much, and he got a 2-man pull with that ult, like the whirlwind. He did so much there.
Yeah, Wubbn absolutely controls that team fight, which, like you said, as Variety gets zoned out, as Wowy and Wubbn take care of the Fire Giant. Look for the flank from Qvofred on the backside. Moswal going to look for him, going to the ultimate. Turns around to secure the Fire Giant, but it's a little bit too soon. Qvofred showing up. Wowy wants to release it. The call is ambiguous. Noble doesn't know what to do here. And now Qvofred by himself looking for the kill on the Hunter, but there's 4 players collapsing, and Skeeledon 7, 0, and 8 for the Assassin.
That looked like the exact same thing that just happened at Gold Fury. Qvofred walks in, he said, all right, that's low enough that if I hit an ability and I'm the only one here, I'll steal it. Oh, man. The Variety is getting chunked. And Zyrhoes is down out of his ult. Oh, man. They're getting baited. They're getting baited so hard.
That's exactly what's happening. I mean, Noble right here, they started the Fire Giant, and they waffled about what to do. They actually made the mistake, and I think that's why Qvofred came through, and it's kind of a haphazard team fight right there. Noble, I think, Noble made the mistake. They did not make a strong call on the Fire Giant, but they turned a bad situation into a good situation because it baited Qvofred in because he said, look, if you guys aren't going to leash it, I'm just going to come through and get the win. They are able to turn on him, and then one by one, Dignitas tried to help each other.
Obviously, we're a little bit biased. We have that top-down angle. But for them, Dignitas didn't see Wowy. They didn't see Skeeledon. Skeeledon's behind them, and Wowy's in front of them. And when you're in front of somebody at the Fire Giant, they think that you're just going to finish it. And based on Qvo's call, he died when Fire was at a quarter HP. So in the communication, you would imagine that Qvofred is saying, hey, they're about to finish Fire. Like, they Raijin ulted it, and then they leashed it. You would not expect a Raijin to ult Fire Giant and then leash it literally 1 second after that.
Yeah, like I said, it was the wrong call.
Right. And it was the wrong call, and having Qvofred go in and die before it was finished, they have no idea, and they're going in one by one to see if they because obviously you know when they finish it because it makes the giant noise.
Right.
But you don't know if you can steal it with maybe Freya ult, which you had to use to get away from Skeeledon. You don't know if you can steal it with a Trixtank ult, go in and dot it down. They have so many opportunities to, quote, steal an objective that they try to go in one by one.
I like that there. I think that's a fantastic example of 5 players kind of doing the wrong thing. Like, they should have leashed.
One by one.
Yeah, they should have leashed, and then they didn't leash, but then Moswal came, and they should have still leashed, but they didn't. But everybody stuck to the game plan, which was kill Qvofred.
Everybody stuck to the game plan, and like you said, kill Qvofred. He's 1-7 right now, and he's not very tanky. Yeah. And he's still doing damage because of the Guardian base, but it's really not enough. And if he didn't die early, if he was able to put a little bit more damage out early, he probably would be in a lot better spot. He's 4 levels down, and Skeeledon is 8, 0, and 9.
Yeah.
And also full tank, and still shredding.
Skeeledon certainly having a good game so far. I've really liked what I've seen out of, honestly, pretty much everybody. You brought up Wubbn before, who has traditionally been sort of the Achilles heel for this team, but absolutely doing a lot of work here from the support role, really setting up a lot of the kills, setting up a lot of the team fights, and providing a lot more than just plain old peel.
He's also not even building traditionally. I guess traditionally with the old support items is the exact thing that he's doing, but the Sovereignty and the Heart Word are super helpful right now, considering that if you're giving protections to everybody on your team and the other team is far behind and they're not doing damage, then they're probably literally not doing anything.
Yeah, a ton of protections here provided for the team, and just a little bit of penetration across the way. You can see Freya building into the Book of the Dead. It was neither the Pythax piece nor the Bancroft like we normally see out of the Freyas. But the Book of the Dead providing a whole bunch of help there as far as the health shield is concerned. We'll see if it's actually impactful. But right now, slew of categories owned by Noble Esports, experience and gold, both in the 5 digits, 18-4 as well, as we're about 25.5 in.
The 10K gold lead is really bad, considering that these are item-dependent characters.
Yep.
Especially a character like Freya, or even Cabrakan. You know, he can build something. He can build full tank based on how the game is going, or he can build damage, build a little bit more hybrid, more damage, more tank. He can go either way, and right now it looks like he has to build tank because he's literally just dying.
I mean, he's 4 levels down from the jungler across the way, and right now Noble's going to force this fight. I like this call. Variety going to drop the ring, but 2 players tossed up by Wubbn. Whalrus, however, being a hard-focused target. And he's brought down to about 10% HP, forced out the hard way. Skeeledon here, 25. And Moswal with a nice ultimate to shove people out and out of his own jungle. So now Team Dignitas, they've got the footing around here. Looking for the team fight continuously, though. Skeeledon still quarter of HP. Wowy brought down to about 60%. Left side is Whalrus battling it out with Variety as the rest of Team Dignitas fall back. Variety on the back end could be collapsed on. Got to play it carefully. Wowy dealing damage. There's the Honey as well. Jumps towards the team. Half HP, 25% on the Portal Demon. Wubbn, Wowy, Moswal, Skeeledon present. Hercules is back at base. Skeeledon's present, but he's gone. Arkkyl gets the kill, and Team Dignitas pick up the Portal Demon. Now, looking for the continuation of the fight. Wowy, half HP, being chased by 4 players on Team Dignitas. Right-hand side is Wubbn, and he's gone. Arkkyl with another kill. 4, 2, and 1. Team Dignitas looking for the escape as Whalrus shows up, but the damage already been done, cutting the 10,000 gold lead short to about 9K, and looking at the big guy.
And they have the portal, so they can do it 50% easier, 100% easier. They're sitting there, and Skeeledon went full Qvo. He said, I can steal it, and if I don't, then I just die, so I have to try something. And you don't always have to try something. Sometimes you just have to try to... sometimes you just try to have to continue a fight.
Love the play coming out from Qvofred here, transitioning and finding the ultimate. However, Moswal able to get over that, no problem. Fire Giant, 50%. Wowy looking to play safe all the way back. Whalrus doing anything but right in the middle of the team. Team Dignitas turn off of the big guy and go on to the little guy and send Whalrus back to base.
And doing so much damage to Moswal there, literally probably won them.
Variety. Oh, Variety can't take all that damage. Can't take all that damage.
Moswal has his ult, and they are not. Yeah, he went in too late. He was stunned. He had to beads there. Man. They just went in 1 by 1 and lost the Fire Giant.
Well, Skeely looking to make the plays with a beautiful lift coming out from Zyrhoes keeps the Noble players at bay. 10K once upon a time. Now 7,400 plus a Fire Giant. Team Dignitas, they're back.
That is a steep drop, considering Dignitas was so far behind. That is a very steep drop.
What went wrong for Noble?
What went wrong for Noble was that they didn't die. So everybody's too low, and they decide to come back. If you lose a Portal Demon fight, and maybe 2, 3 of your players die on that team, you have to come back and say, hey, we died, we literally cannot contest, it would be a 2v5. But having people sit there, especially a Whalrus and a Wowy, you have them sitting there and you say, if you guys come back, I'm stalling them. So if you come back, maybe we can fight this. And Skeeledon says, okay, I'll do it. And then they get a huge bounty for killing him, considering he was 8-0, he was so far ahead. And that helped considerably. And now Wowie's here alone. Or no, Wubbn here is alone. And you have that, and you come in, and going in 1 by 1, especially when nobody dies, you kind of expect that once you show up, you should be able to fight.
Yeah.
But whenever you lose a fight like that, you have to give it up.
And Whalrus goes in, like you said, 1 by 1. Whalrus goes in 1 versus 4, thinking he can steal away the Fire Giant. But Dignitas, I mean, like... They've had a terrible weekend, we understand that, but like I said before, one of, if not the best team in the world during the regular season, they're going to be able to turn and burn. The ability, and that I think that was most impressive to me, Ron, in that team fight, was how quickly Dignitas went, Fire Giant, Whalrus, Fire Giant, just switched on and off like they have Z targeting.
And it helps a lot whenever they're already on Fire Giant, and big mitigate wins there. Whenever you have Fire Giant like that, and you say, hey, he's doing damage to Whalrus because we're all here. And they actually all stacked on Whalrus, and they took pool damage just to kill him too. All 4 of the Fire Giant pools that on people that were trying to kill Whalrus stacked on Whalrus, and they shredded him immediately.
Interesting application right there. Noble Esports trying to fight into Team Dignitas. Variety with the flank, gonna get flanked on himself. Zigzag, Variety very tanky, drops the ring. And that should be enough for Noble. However, now getting aggressive is Team Dignitas. Wubbn with the double ultimate. Here comes the Moswal with the drums. The ultimate out of Whalrus. Still, not a lot of damage just yet. Arkkyl pushed out. Arkkyl taking a big chunk of his HP. And he's forced out up north.
Whalrus made a great play there. If you watch that fight back, you can see that Arkkyl and Zyrhoes were in the lower mid camps. And they were focusing all their abilities on the tanks, including Trixtank right now. And he gets out. Noble's forcing all of their abilities onto the tanks, and if you pull 3 tanks, especially whenever you're Wubbn and you're getting a whirlwind on Trixtank, Variety, Qvo, even 2 of the 3, you're not doing that much damage. And whenever the carries are free, whenever the carries are free casting like that, you just die.
And Skeeledon, prime example of what's going to happen. They leave the Gold Fury. Noble Esports do 80% of the damage on that objective. You are not happy.
I'm losing my mind a little bit because this has happened so often with Noble. They've been in the SPL, and even specifically their game against Trifecta, I'm pretty sure they were up about 22, 25K with a Raw, and they had like 2 Fire Giants, and they still weren't able to close it out because their team fights were so scattered. And whenever you have that, you're forcing all the... I've said it a million times. I'm probably annoying everybody in chat by saying this, but you can't force all of your abilities onto the tanks like you have been all game. That's why Obey lost Game 1 to Elevate, because they continued focusing on Cherio. They continued focusing on the RDO, who is going to get naturally tanky anyway, because of their base stats. It doesn't matter what items they have. They have to just get there eventually, and they always will.
Variety right there, it's a prime example. I mean, he gets collapsed on by 4 separate players, and he just drops the ring and sort of walks away. I mean, ton of tankiness, even with the winged blade, to allow him to get out of jail when Wowy drops the slow. Right now, Team Dignitas playing aggressive still, and it's been a tie game after a couple of towers and the Gold Fury. So Team Dignitas previously trailing by 5 figures, 10,000 gold plus, 18-8. Noble still 10 kills in the lead, but Dignitas saying, we don't care. We're down 300 gold, which is virtually nothing. Tie game in the 32nd minute.
Wowy and Moswal have to position better. Right now, Moswal in these fights is trying to, I guess, force his way into the fight, do that damage with his ultimate, and get anything out of it. But you have to look at the carries that are hidden behind the tanks, and the Dignitas knows they're not stupid. They know that you're using your abilities, especially Wubbn's huge ultimate, on the tanks. So whenever Arkkyl, like I said, they're at the back of mid camps, and they're still doing damage. Ullr is not a good team fighter unless you're free casting. If you're even, if you're behind, Ullr can do nothing in team fights, especially if he's not getting peeled.
Because he's just getting pressured the entire time.
Right.
Can't push his buttons.
Right. He can't. He literally can't use his kit, and that's the entire point of Ullr. I know that sounds stupid to say.
No, because traditional hunters just want a basic attack.
Right.
Ullr needs to push his buttons.
Yeah, and Ullr can, his abilities can go through the team fight, and you need that. And Whalrus did a great play there because he recognizes that Arkkyl, he has his beads and his Aegis, and he turns and he looks and he tries to pull Arkkyl, and right there, they didn't capitalize.
Tough stuff there. Whalrus, the right plays in mind, but not able to actually execute. Variety going to get aggressed on here, drop the ring, and the Fiend Fountain Phantom going to be activated by Noble. I can't talk, but Arkkyl can kill. Skeeledon taking one down right there. And the Hunter one more time. And why? I'll ask you again, why was Arkkyl able to do that?
Because they pulled the tanks, and he had all the peel in the world.
Whalrus just getting jumped on here. A little bit of a shell help, but Zyrhoes to the sky. Big damage on top of Whalrus and Wubbn. Those players are the tanks, but Dignitas have now caught up, and they're able to deal the damage. Fire Giant has respawned, and Variety by himself is going to zone out the entirety of Noble Esports.
This is one of the best points in the entire game for Freya, and look at that shred with Arkkyl and Zyrhoes. They get that Fire Giant in about 10 seconds there. Noble literally could not walk in one by one and die.
No.
They've had that opportunity a lot of the time. They walk in one by one, and they didn't even have time to do that this time.
No, way too fast. Team Dignitas snatching away the lead here. One of my favorite things in Smite, by the way.
What's that?
The dancing Fafnir.
Oh, really?
With the
the coerce?
The coerce.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Why
is that not Fafnir's dance?
I don't know, but I love it. I absolutely love that dancing Fafnir.
I feel like Trix doesn't have the dance because he wants to take it seriously. Like he says, if I have the dance at all on my account, then like we lose.
That is the most un-Trixtank thing I've ever heard. Have you even met the man? Trixtank dances his way to the bathroom frequently. I mean, come on now.
Are you there too?
Frequently.
Okay.
Trixtank.
Sorry.
A lot of fun. I actually, I'm happy to see these guys succeed because Trixtank and the crew, just fun guys. I mean, we've seen them. I always bring up their YouTube content, right? Their ability to put out the funny dig moments.
Oh, those graphs. Sorry I interrupted you. But
No, that's a story in and of itself.
that made me react physically.
As you should. I mean, it is a, like I said, it is a story in and of itself. They're illustrations to the novel that Team Dignitas have been writing.
That looks like the mental state of Noble as well, considering that the downswing might help Dignitas. Even if they don't win, even if something happens where Dignitas doesn't push this lead that they just gained, Dignitas probably feels a lot better. It looked like they were tilted out of their minds after they lost that 55-minute game to Rival, throwing at that mid-Phoenix, and then they lose every game after that. If they can win this, maybe they'll get some momentum.
The graphs also could just be the heart rate of Noble.
Right.
Getting really excited as they get a lead, and now slowly bleeding out because Team Dignitas have just jumped on them time and time again. 5 players strong on the left side. Phoenix here. Variety looking to lead the charge. Trixtank stopping the flank. And here comes Odin, just walking in and dropping the ring. Ullr able to free cast to the back end, and Skeeledon trying to stop that, but he's already taken down to a sliver of HP. Team Dignitas read the assassin and put him to bed. Now the rest of the team trying to focus on the team fight. Wowy low, the beautiful wall coming out from Qvofred. Arkkyl able to put the hunter in the ground again. Skeeledon responds, taking out the Ullr, but what a play.
That was so strong from Dignitas, and Zyrhoes has to understand what he's doing right now. He's playing so far back, and then he aegises to get back into the back of the team fight. Wubbn, oh no, Qvofred could kill. He's blinking in, he's Whalrus handsing him. He's not even Whalrus, and he's doing it.
Moswal, on the other hand, also going to be doing it. Noble are able to bite back a little bit, but they've already lost their Phoenix. And with the ground pound, Qvofred just down being to victory. Moswal going to sit down. Whalrus barely getting out of there. Variety going to correct me and give him a seat. Noble Esports still 20 kills in total. Dignitas just now notching a dozen, but the kills, it do not matter. It's all about the map control. The left side Phoenix down. And it's a 3 for 2, but Noble loses the big objective.
Noble loses the big objective, but luckily for Noble, they lost both their carries, so they can't end.
Yes.
I think because Skeeledon just got his ult, and they have that, people are dead, especially Whalrus, who has that ability to even pluck you into Fountain. That's like a real threat, because Whalrus is good at that character.
Moswal makes a big play there, though. Moswal taking out, I think it was Moswal that took out Arkkyl.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely the target, because one of the things that we mentioned here is specifically that Zyrhoes on the non-traditional mage, right? A lot of times, your mage isn't going to kill the Phoenix. He's not going to kill the tower. That's your hunter's job.
Right, and he's not going to kill that. And when it comes to that, you aren't able to push this lead that you've slowly gained.
But the mage, even if you're playing, let's leave gods like Poseidon out of it, right? Even if you're just playing like a measly old Doth guy, right?
Yeah.
He still has ranged basics.
Yeah.
The Freya doesn't.
He still has ranged basics, and if you have a hunter on your team, you have the hieroglyphic
The
wall.
window, yeah, sure. My point is that the mages, boring old mage that's terrible at pushing, is still going to have ranged basics. Zyrhoes using Pulse and Irradiate, most importantly Pulse, on the enemy so that he has to get melee range for the Phoenix. So once Ullr is dead, I mean, it becomes that much harder for Dignitas to push, even with their mage alive. So Zyrhoes right there, able to take out the left side Phoenix, but a very important kill coming out from Mozzie.
It's very helpful that Arkkyl picked up the Crusher too. I love Crusher, especially on Ullr, because it's a cooldown, and Wubbn is caught in between 4, and Skeeledon is dying. What is going on?
Right now, Noble Esports doing what they did before, just walking one by one like lambs to the slaughter. And Team Dignitas ready to make some HSPs. But Fire Giant has respawned, and the portal is all red. And Team Dignitas, they're not even looking for the objective right now, Ron. They're looking more for the push out in the team fight.
Yeah, and Skeeledon, it's a 4v5 because he has to defend those fire creeps.
Yep.
And if they push enough fire creeps in and get that Titan health low, it's not going to reset because that Phoenix isn't going to come up.
Is Serqet the one you want doing that job?
If she's a tank, maybe. She has that mystical mail, so it helps a little bit. But I don't know. The only person who would be able to do it would be Wowy or Moswal, and you don't want to put them out there. You want to put them in the fight.
Fair.
And especially whenever you do that, you have Skeeledon doing that, and he doesn't have his ultimate because he had to use it for the immunity frames. He's not useful in the fight anyway, I would imagine. So Dig probably doesn't even care.
Team Dignitas now, 4 players on the right side, 1 in the middle lane, that 1 being Qvofred and the Cabrakan. Black and yellow looking for their push onto the 2 remaining Phoenixes. Skeeledon playing defense against the enemy jungler while the rest bang 4-on-4 on the right-hand side. Whalrus loses a sliver, but Variety loses the whole bunch. Have to jump out. Moswal up in the ultimate. 1 shot, 2 shot, not going to be enough. Team Dignitas with a nice little retreat here. Has to wait for the reprieve as Noble have a strong defensive push.
Their target acquisition is whoever's in front of them, which is probably not the idea that you want to have. And Wubbn has to know that Arkyl's beads are down. And if he gets that whirlwind onto Arkkyl, granted he uses Aegis, so he had that. But if Wubbn gets that pull onto Arkkyl, they're able to probably win and just, I don't want to say win, you know, they can't push, but something.
Wubbn forced out. Wowy stuck behind the wall, finally able to wiggle his way through, but Variety with the Goomba Stomp takes down the B-Man.
And Skeeledon's not as tanky as he thinks he is right now. He's still an assassin and he's a little bit behind considering that he hasn't been able to fight. And right now, the fire creeps look like, yeah, they have a free wave of fire creeps and they're not able to defend that. So that Phoenix might just go down for free.
Wubbn in the middle of everything, gonna look for the pancake flip. Damage on all players from Noble Esports, and 1 player takes enough to be sent back. It's Skeeledon. Wubbn and Whalrus find their way to the fountain, as will Moswal. The right side Phoenix goes down. Left side has respawned, however. Dignitas notice, and they'll send themselves to the middle lane, looking for some additional help versus the Titan.
The only real defense that they would have would be the boulder, which was just used 1 second ago, and Moswal doesn't, he just got his ult 1 second ago. Dig probably,
Here it is.
That is really smart.
Taking down Arkkyl again for the 2nd time. That target selection, absolutely perfect. Wubbn's gonna fall down in the hand of the Valkyrie. And the push from Dignitas has 1 more time regained themselves. Zyrhoes just gonna be able to fight this one down. Melee damage doesn't matter. Nobody's here playing defense. All 3 Firebirds down. Dignitas with the full retreat.
I think they could have ended there, honestly, just 1 second ago, because Moswal doesn't have his ult.
It's not a full retreat.
Yeah, they can stay and maybe kill Wowy here because he only has beads, no Aegis, and they don't really need the beads.
That's the game plan. You see this wave of fire minions, or regular minions rather, coming on in. Qvofred with a blink looking for the mage. Moswal.
Oh, they're just ending.
Gonna get stunned. And it's all about the Titan. 2K, 1,800, 1,000. And there, Team Dignitas find their first win of the weekend.
Dignitas finds their win finally. They probably are so happy right now. You can tell. Look, they're ecstatic. They're jumping up and down. They're going insane.
Maybe by your standards.
Look at them go.
Honestly, jokes aside, what I see there is a size of relief.
Yeah.
Dignitas really, a lot of people expected a lot more from them, but they come through and they finally get that win. And like I said, when you're expected to win, man, I mean, it's a different type of experience. You're not going to see the jumping up and down. You're not going to see the Aurora tackle.
Yeah.
You're going to see the... Well, it's about damn time.
Yeah.
Because, frankly, it's about damn time.
It's about damn time, and I don't want to be rude and say not having a win would be embarrassing, but coming in as the 2nd seed in Europe and not getting a single win on LAN would be extremely rough for them mentally.
Not getting a win would have been embarrassing for Team Dignitas. Like I said, they were the best team in the world for the entirety of the season, in my professional opinion. And then they come through and they had such a hard time. Noble reflecting on that loss, though, I noticed Skeeledon really kind of talking to his team there.
Yeah.
What went wrong for Noble there in your eyes?
Noble did not push their lead with objectives. The issue was that they were getting these kills, they were getting the jungle camps, and they weren't able to press onto what really mattered.
Well, that's it for game number 1. We'll head on to post-game analysis in game 2.
Well, thanks for joining us back here at the desk, and we got to see it. Dignitas up against Noble. Finch here, Taco, Alpha, Jackal, and y'all got to see it, so let's go ahead and talk about it. What went wrong here for Noble?
Noble just had really poor target focus as the objective fights started breaking out more and more often, particularly around the Portal Demon. When they tried to take up an engagement without their solar laner available, they really needed Whalrus' presence before they started engaging onto that portal.
And there was one fight in particular where they had control of both the Portal Demon and the Fire Giant. Both were still up, but they had the positional advantage. They engage. Wowy gets a 3-man ultimate, but throws all of them away from the rest of his team. And that engage just allowed Dignitas to spill over and take the fight from 10,000 gold behind.
And is that something that can really impact them that strongly, Taco? Because, I mean, Whalrus gets first blood. I mean, Skeeledon gets a double kill in mid to start this game off. They were way out in front. It feels like a lot has to go wrong for that to get dropped.
I think a large part of the problem for Noble is they're not used to having leads, especially massive ones, against these more experienced teams. So whenever they do finally catch up and essentially push themselves ahead of the competition, they don't really know what to do with it, it seems. It seems they're still lacking just that little last bit of experience that most other teams have already acquired that would help them in knowing how to properly engage on those teammates, knowing when to disengage and when to just try and focus on the objective.
And it's not just the fact that they lost that one fight, it's the fact that they subsequently lost the Portal Demon, the Fire Giant, and then Towers, and all of a sudden their 12,000 gold lead was down to about 300, like they said on the cast. And just one misplay like that just comes down to a bit of inexperience at this high level.
And talk to me a little bit here, Alpha Jackal, about Zyrhoes on this Freya pick. Yeah, they start off and they're down, but Freya's kind of like having an emergency button there for you in the late game.
Yeah, Freya is extremely potent mid-game and late-game pick, and with Zyrhoes' positioning especially, he makes it work very well. He always plays very safe in lane, values his own safety more so than the team fights and the buffs, because he knows that if he can get to the mid-game, if he can get to that late game, even or indeed ahead despite the fact his team is behind, he knows that he can push his team forward to a victory.
And the same here to you, Taco. How big do you think this Freya pick was for him here in this game? Or is that really what your focal point was for Dignitas?
Personally, I think Dignitas, with this kind of draft versus any other team here, would have probably lost that game. I wasn't really a huge fan of the Freya Cabrakan synergy as far as mid-jungle is concerned. I think that's just a little bit too much focal point on the magical damage, and Zyrhoes just doesn't really have the clear early on to have proper pressure. And Noble were actually able to take advantage of that early game, and even a little bit into the mid. It's just, again, like I mentioned, they just don't really have the experience that these other teams do in order to know how to close out properly.
Yeah, and I think you touched on it perfectly. Against any other team, they probably would have just been snowballed out of control on top of. It took 13 minutes before Noble actually started taking objectives like the Gold Fury in the Tier 1 tower in mid. And at that point, they were 3,000 gold up despite having consistently invaded on Qvofred's jungle, despite having a 3-level lead in that jungle. Most teams would have had 4 or 5-level leads, would have taken down 3 towers, maybe 2 Gold Furies at that point, just been out of control at that point.
And talk to me a little bit about this, because you say, against any other team, the first team when they fall down into group phases that Dignitas faces is Energy. That's kind of rough. That's one of the strongest teams really for them in that group stage. How important was it for Dignitas, or how impactful was it, Taco, that they had to face Energy first?
It wasn't necessarily having to face Energy first that did it in for them. It was just the reactions surrounding it, because Energy really knew how to get into Dignitas' head. I mean, those guys are great friends both in and out of the game. And so suffering a loss in the manner that they did to Energy was more so a hit towards their mental state rather than their gameplay.
And also it didn't help that they had to then spill over into a game against Elevate straight after that. And Elevate have proven to be a tough customer to handle, and it proved just like that on yesterday in that third game.
And I agree. It does seem like now that we've seen a few of those yesterday shape out, Energy and Elevate are kind of the top ones down here in the group stages. Trifecta's still looking good as well. So it's just a difficult path that Dignitas had to walk, really, to make it to this point. And up against Noble, we do sort of get to see the ability for them to combat that these are 5 really strong players.
And that's just something that happens from time to time. But if anything, it's all a very beneficial learning experience still to Noble. The fact that they even made it here to begin with, when pretty much everybody expected them not to be able to qualify, I think just says a lot for the team, and they're all relatively still trying to get that upper hand grasp on higher tier competitive play, and I think that all around this LAN has probably been very helpful towards them.
And they haven't had Coach Selene with them for a long period of time. They have this break going now from the end of Super Regionals on to the beginning of Season 5, where they have the ability to work on some more strategies, work more closely with Slaney, and go into the next season more refreshed and probably coming out a bit stronger than most people expect.
Well, let's go ahead.